It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Broadcasting from coast to coast,
city to city, coast to coast.
It's time for the Ryan Hickey Show on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. If it's happening in sports, it's being talked about right here. And here's your host, Ryan Hickey.
Good Thursday morning. Welcome into the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. As you just heard, it is the Ryan Hickey Show with you right here until 11 a.m. Eastern. The next 2 hours taking you around the world of sports. And if you're watching on the live stream, do not freak out. That is right. We are in a brand new studio. Please give me a break here, at least with the makeshift bookshelf. I'll be honest, I did cheap out on a green screen in terms of shipping. One is on the way. I could have got express shipping, decided not to do it. Hopefully, was kind of hoping Amazon maybe would be on their game and get it a day or two early. Fortunately, not the case. So that is why the bookshelf is here, at least for today's show. Hopefully, by Monday's show, we'll even have a nicer background for you, a little bit nicer setup. But hopefully, you enjoy the new setup, the new studio here. I know it's a little closer to my face, a little different angle, so I apologize for that. If you don't like it, well, I guess you're in tough times there. So I'm sorry about that. I apologize. I'll try to work on that. But hopefully, it makes the viewing experience, the listening experience, the show itself a little bit better. And that is obviously what we try to do here every Monday and every Thursday for 2 hours on the Worldwide Sports Network. Now, as a reminder, we're always coming to you live from the Big Italy Pizzeria Studios, whether it's great pizza, hot heroes, and phenomenal dinners. Check out Big Italy Pizzeria in person in Medford, Joe's Pizzeria in Bayshore, wherever you are, online at BigItalyPizza.com. We have a jam-packed show, a loaded show for you on this Thursday as we enter March, slowly start to turn towards daylight savings. I feel like I've been saying that a lot. As you can see where my mind is. I am inching and racing towards spring. I cannot wait. But in the meantime, we do have a lot to talk about, a lot of basketball as well. James Harden makes his return to Houston. Now when does he make his return? That's where we'll start here in a second. His play is speaking for itself. And honestly, as you said here, unofficially at the halfway point of the season as the All-Star break is this weekend, a little bit under games-wise at half the season, but we're essentially there, the unofficial halfway part of the NBA regular season. James Harden deserves to be in the MVP consideration. I'll explain why that answer to me is yes. Explain why that is in 15 minutes or so at 9:20, 9:40. Because we're about halfway through the NBA season, maybe it's a good time to start talking about things we expected or didn't expect. Some surprises, some disappointments. One team in the East, one team in the West that's been a surprise. One team in the East, one team in the West that's been a disappointment so far. Again, unofficially halfway through the NBA season. We'll do that at 9:40, excuse me. We'll get into the NFL here and really NFL heavy in the second hour. 10 a.m. Eastern. J.J. Watt signed with Arizona. That news breaks, of course, like it always does right after the show ends. Does this signing make the Cardinals a playoff contender? We'll discuss. And also, look, I understand I am not trying to add to the tired conversation that is Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson right now. Will they get traded? What teams could they get traded to? I get it. It's been talked about. It's been really, almost beating a dead horse at this point. But I want to kind of attack it from a different angle because from what I've seen on Twitter, from what I've seen on social media, fans reacting to their teams maybe getting in the rumors for Russell Wilson, for Deshaun Watson. And there's a dichotomy forming when it comes to what to give up for a franchise quarterback. And yesterday, obviously there's no NFL scouting combine this year because of the pandemic. It stinks. So, but now at least because usually GMs talk at the combine, they're still having their, combine time press conferences now. Two general managers spoke yesterday about their current franchise quarterback, and it just made me think. I'll play you the clips later on at 10 a.m. or 10:20, excuse me. Hearing them talk about their current quarterback makes me realize no price is too high for a franchise quarterback. I'll explain what that is at 10:20. And to end the show, is there some new overtime rules for the NFL coming in 2021? I'll explain what the Ravens, an interesting twist to overtime that maybe if you are not a fan of the current overtime format will like. Instead, we'll discuss that to end the show at 10:40. I don't know why I'm getting all these times mixed up. New studio, but everything else stays the same. Hopefully that's the worst of the show so far, and we'll get everything else right going forward. So we will start in Houston last night. We will start in the NBA. because it was a homecoming. And if you're a Houston Rockets fan, maybe not the sweetest homecoming that you envisioned when the season started, because we've all been broken up with before, right? It happens. It sucks. It stinks. It stings. Some are worse than others. But as you know, as kind of, how things kind of progress, the breakup happens, whether it's mutual, which we always know it never is, but everyone loves to say it's mutual, or whether you're on the other end where you were the one broken up with. It stinks. It's tough to deal with. And now especially, it's even tougher to deal with because in the social media age, now it's not like you just break up and the person is kind of out of your life, right? I mean, some people do that. Credit to them. Kudos to them. It is very hard to just one day date someone, next day break up, and boom, you cut them out of your life. You delete their number. You delete them off Instagram. You unfollow them on Twitter, unfriend them on Facebook. As we know, it's tough to do. So usually you end up following. You see their pictures. You see what they're up to. And if they're having fun, if they're enjoying their breakup maybe better than you are, it hurts. It stings. And then what? Maybe they meet someone else. They show you how much they love being with someone else, how happy they are, how great life is. And here you are sitting there, still scorned, still hurt. It's tough to deal with. It is very tough to deal with. And unfortunately, in those circumstances, the one thing that helps heal all wounds is time, right? You need time. Maybe, obviously, for some it takes longer than others. Maybe you need a week, a month, maybe even a year. But if you were to run into the ex-girlfriend or the ex-boyfriend and to catch up recently, a few months later where it's still, the wounds are still there, and you see on social media they were having a blast, having fun, loving their new partner, it would be tough to stomach, right? You really couldn't feel happy for them. You couldn't be elated that, you know what, I'm so glad you're doing well. I'm so glad that things seem to be going well in your world. And that to me is at least what I could equate to the Houston Rockets fans and how they felt last night with James Harden returning as a member of the Brooklyn Nets. Because, especially obviously being in a pandemic time, obviously you're not going to get a sold-out arena. I think there was about 3,000 fans there in Houston last night. But I'll be honest, the reaction that James Harden got last night in his first game back in Houston since forcing his way out was actually a lot nicer than I expected. Now again, very limited capacity. It's tough to really get a visceral reaction, really kind of let your emotions fly when it's just that limited amount of people. But they're justified. They are absolutely justified in every single way if they want to be upset, if they still feel hurt, if they still feel damaged by the way James Harden treated their franchise really this past offseason and leading into the season. So I was surprised to see, frankly, the Houston Rockets organization make a tribute video for James Harden and said, after that said tribute video, as I should say, him to get, for the most part, an ovation. Now, again, there was some boos there, and he did get booed throughout the game, so it's not like, it was a love fest coming back to Houston for the first time. But it was a lot more cordial, to be honest, than I expected. So I want to kind of start this and ask you your thoughts, because we've all kind of been there, especially in sports, especially now if you're an NBA fan, with the player movement. You've been on both the receiving end of a star player coming to your team and the joy and the elation you get when your team becomes a contender. If you're the Nets, for example, just 2 years ago, you build something, boom, here's Kevin Durant, here's Kyrie Irving. Now James Harden wants to play for your team. It's an awesome, awesome, awesome feeling. But if you're on the other side of that, if you are a Houston Rockets fan, if you are a Pelicans fan, when Anthony Davis forced his way out and made it very public, even if you're a Timberwolves fan, Jimmy Butler made it ugly in Minnesota. How would you react to that first game back? Because I'll be honest, I was surprised last night with how the Rockets fans reacted so, frankly, nicely to Harden, because I would 100% have a lot of venom, have a lot of anger, and boo as much as I possibly could boo, because it still stings. It still hurts. Because let's also not forget what this situation is, right? Because Houston especially should know, disgruntled players. Let's just go right to Deshaun Watson, right? I could be wrong. I don't have the pulse of the people in Houston. I am not a Houstonian. I'm not a Texans fan. But I am hard-pressed to find many Texans fans blaming Deshaun Watson for what is going on. He has given his soul. He has tried everything possible to make the Texans a winner. And because of the incompetence, because of the lack of direction, because of the lack of leadership, because, frankly, you kind of lead Deshaun Watson one way, then quickly, kind of pull the rug out from under him and go the other way in terms of wanting his feedback in general manager and head coaching hirings, and then going the total other way, other misdirection of where he wants to go. Michigan not listen to him at all. The Texans single-handedly, Cal McNair and Jack used to be themselves, basically forced Deshaun Watson out of town. But if you're a Rockets fan, right, what happened between you and James Harden was the total opposite of what's going on with Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans. Because the Rockets in James Harden's 8+ years in Houston, they did everything possible to cater to him. Let's not forget, they brought in Dwight Howard. That didn't work. They shipped Dwight Howard out. Who does James Harden want to bring in next? Chris Paul. They make a big trade for Chris Paul, give him a big extension. On the court-wise, they had their most success. Remember, that 3-2 in the conference finals over the 73 Warriors before Chris Paul gets hurt, and ultimately they have the worst shooting game maybe in NBA history in terms of the playoffs from three, and they end up losing that. The Warriors go on to the finals. So that relationship falls apart off the court. Chris Paul out, in comes Russell Westbrook, another friend of James Harden. 3 for 3. James Harden wants some guys in, doesn't work out, wants them out, they get him out. As we know, that was a one and done with Russell Westbrook in Houston. And finally, the closing act, if you will. Russell Westbrook traded to the Wizards. Coming back is John Wall, another friend of James Harden. So they've acquiesced to every single need and want and preference of James Harden, again, through the 8+ years there in Houston. They changed their entire philosophy. I mean, essentially the entire culture of the Rockets was based on James Harden's personality. He's a laid-back, cool, chill guy. That's what the environment was in Houston. And you hear Russell Westbrook, stories come out after he was traded. He was frustration by the lax atmosphere that was with Houston. Meetings didn't really start on time because James Harden would basically come in whenever he wanted. No problem. He would party in between games. No problem. He basically got what he wanted in every single way in that organization. And they gave it to him. They allowed it to him. Now, even with that said, even with all the moves that were made to cater to James Harden, even with all the moves that were made to bring his friends in when they didn't work, get his friends out of there, bring new friends in, try everything possible to make this James Harden experience in Houston end up in a championship, unfortunately for him, he didn't hold up his end of the bargain when it comes to the playoffs. Because as we know, routinely, yearly, he would show up small in big playoff games, in big playoff moments. He would miss a shot, or even worse, sometimes not even take the shot. So when you look at Houston's failure to get to a finals in the 8 years that James Harden's been there, when you look at their inability to get a championship, there's a lot of factors that go into it. Don't get me wrong. But a lot of the blame can be put on James Harden's shoulders because, again, you're a franchise guy, one of the best players in the NBA, one of the best regular season players we will ever see in history, routinely couldn't get the job done in the playoffs. So despite everything, the arm and the leg, the overtures that the Rockets constantly made for James Harden, in the end, as we know earlier this year, it was not good enough. Because one day he woke up, decided, you know what, the Rockets, I can't do this anymore. This relationship is untenable. I don't want to be here. And he said, you know where I want to go? I want to go to Brooklyn. I want to play with my guys, KD and Kyrie. And as we know, made life hell for new GM Raphael Stone, new head coach Stephen Silas, and every Rockets fan in Houston, every Rockets member in the organization. He quit on the team. I think it's fair to say. He quit on the Rockets. He wanted to go to a winner. He wanted to chase a championship. Didn't think it was going to happen in Houston. Forget everything that they've done. Again, forget everything that they have done to make sure his experience in Houston was the best, to make sure he had no excuse as to why he couldn't get the job done. He quit on them. So yeah, honestly, if I was a Rockets fan, I would have been pissed last night. I would have been screaming. I would have been yelling. I would have, if I was in the building, been booing as much as I could. Because this is a guy, who quit on a team who gave everything to James Harden. Everything he could possibly want. They gave it to him. Maybe sometimes against the better judgment of the team. Maybe sometimes going against the better judgment of trying to win games. They would give him whatever he wants. And that still wasn't good enough for the Beard. So it must have been tough. I couldn't imagine seeing an ex-lover, if you will, an ex-girlfriend, an ex-boyfriend, now with their new team, playing great, giving effort, being selfless, taking a step back, if you will, to fit in with Katie, to fit in with Kyrie, having a lot of fun. We see now the Brooklyn Nets are really starting to hit their stride, despite the fact that the big trio hasn't really played a lot together. Then he comes into your house last night and does what he does. Classic James Harden triple-double. So I'll be honest, I am pretty surprised that it wasn't a more visceral reaction. I'm not saying I expected Kevin Durant reaction when he returned to Oklahoma City the first time, because that was, if you remember that, they had the cupcakes all throughout the building calling him soft. I think if fans were allowed to go on the court and fight KD, I think they would have. I think the entire stadium would have rushed on the court to try to fight Kevin Durant. That's how upset and hurt Oklahoma City felt, despite the fact they didn't force a trade out. He didn't just get up and quit on the Thunder one day. He left in free agency. You want to say that quitting, it's another discussion, but at least he didn't make it ugly. The way James Harden was partying during the preseason, showed up out of shape, essentially, loafed on the court, didn't try, looked for every excuse to get out, was throwing basketballs at teammates. It got pretty ugly in Houston. So I am honestly a little surprised that the reaction that he got last night wasn't more visceral, wasn't more directed towards hatred than it was of praise. And again, James Harden, I'll say this, deserves praise for what he did in Houston in those 8 years. Have been incredible. He's one of the best players in franchise history. He deserves his number retired. He deserves a standing ovation. He deserves a tribute video. He deserves to be welcomed back and embraced by every Rockets fan, but not right now. Not this year. Probably not even next year. It's going to take time. Like I said, time heals all wounds. So I did find it a little interesting that Tillman Fertitta, the owner of the Rockets, already made it an announcement that they were going to retire James Harden's number 13 at some point. They made the tribute video, and he got 50-50, maybe even a little more cheering than booing. There wouldn't have been me. So I'm curious your thoughts. If you've been a fan of a team, and really any sports, now we're starting to see more in baseball, players forcing their way out, football, players forcing their way out if they don't like the situation. If you've been on the other side of a player movement, of an exit that got ugly, franchise guy wants out, doesn't want to be with your team anymore, makes it known, how are you responding to him the first time he comes back to the city? Are you showing him love for everything he's given to the city? Those 8 great years, those 2 conference finals that the Rockets made, the MVP performance that he had. He's given the Rockets a lot. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I think the sting is still there from the exit. That to me makes it hard to reflect on the good times right now because you are still hurting from the bad. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Facebook, Worldwide Sports Network, Twitter, WWSRN_radio, or on Twitter at Ryan Hickey Show. How would you react if you're a fan of a team that had an ugly exit with a franchise player, not just any player, right? Not just some average guy who went and chased the money or want to go elsewhere. How would you react if a franchise guy, the reason you maybe bought a Rockets jersey or was a Rockets fan, got an ugly exit, left your team, and then came back a few weeks later? So curious your thoughts. We'll get your thoughts on reaction to star players returning. And when we come back, speaking of James Harden, why he deserves to be in the MVP conversation. What he's done has been incredible since he's come to Brooklyn. We'll explain why that, to me, he absolutely should be in the top 3 when it comes to MVP. We'll just do that next. Here's the Ryan Hickey Show right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Welcome back to the Ryan Hickey Show, right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
And welcome on back into the Ryan Hickey Show with you right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. New studio. Hoping you're liking it. Hopefully you're liking the new design, the new layout, the new look. We will have a green screen, hopefully make the background even more pleasant, even more presentable, maybe even more professional. We'll see. Hopefully we'll get that ready to go for Monday's show. But in the meantime, just a bookcase filled with books I've never read. Not going to try to pretend to be a scholar. But, you see a lot of people behind bookshelves that look smart. Adam Schefter, as we know, the stoic look behind the bookshelf. So I figured maybe I'll try to fool some people. Fake it till you make it. Have a bookshelf filled with a ton of books that your boy hasn't read. Has not read. So welcome back in. We were talking about James Harden and his return to Houston. Got a warmer ovation, I should say, than I figured that I wouldn't have given him if I was a Rockets fan. I'd be very, very upset. You know, it's like, again, use the analogy before. If you're on the wrong side of a breakup, let's say, and you still follow your girlfriend or the ex-girlfriend or the ex-boyfriend on social media, you see they're with someone new, having a blast, loving life, feeling good, telling you how much they're loving life, and then you run into them maybe for lunch or you run into them on the street and you're talking, you're catching up. It's tough to try to at least fake your happiness. Oh, I'm so happy you met someone new. I'm doing great myself. This is just me personally. Maybe I'm too emotional, but I feel like it's tough to fake that. It still would hurt. It still would, be kind of tough to come around. As we know, time heals all wounds. If I was a Rockets fan, I would probably need more time before I want to hear that James Harden's number is getting retired, before I want to see a tribute video, before I want to give him a standing ovation in his return to Houston, because the exit was so ugly. So if you have any thoughts on how you react if a star player left your team, Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Twitter, WWSRN_radio, at Ryan Hickey Show, also on Twitter. But speaking of James Harden, I want to continue the conversation about him. Because for all the negative that happened in Houston to start the year, and even in the preseason leading up to the season, when he's a no-show, when he's making known he doesn't want to be there, when he's partying, etc. Since coming over from Houston and going to Brooklyn, not only have the Nets been better than I expected, and if you heard the show or listened to the show at all, you will know what side of the fence I'm on when it comes to believing in the Nets or not. When this trade even was being rumored to go down, I said, no way, can't do it. James Harden, a team player? Kyrie Irving, a team player? Good joke. Yeah, that's definitely gonna work out. Those two together, sharing one ball. Yeah, love to see that happen. But that's exactly what happens so far. And specifically because of what James Harden has done, taking a backseat, accepting his role, and catering his game for the first time in his career. Again, this is not a second or third year player that is still learning and developing and growing his game in the NBA. This is an old dog. What's the saying? You can't teach an old dog new tricks. We saw in Houston for 8 years. Players come, players go. His friends come and go. And what would James Harden never do? He would never change his style to fit the friend that came in that year. He wouldn't change his style to make Dwight Howard feel more included or maybe feel more comfortable in the offense. He didn't change his style when Chris Paul was there, Russell Westbrook was there, or if he did, he didn't like it. There's been plenty of times last year specifically, right, when Russell Wilson would carry the ball up and James Harden would be closer to half court. He was basically checked out of the offense. It's a 5-on-4 for the other team. So he has really not changed his stripes. He has not changed his playing style when it comes to trying to fit in with others. But he has done that in Brooklyn. And I will give him a lot of credit because I was wrong about that for sure. We'll continue. That's why I'm not fully sold on the Nets yet. But for right now, again, unofficially through the halfway point of the year in the NBA with the All-Star break coming up this weekend, the Nets have been better than expected. They're 24-13, second in the East, half game behind the Sixers. And a large reason because of that is James Harden. In my mind, because of the way he's changed his play, because of the way he has taken this Nets team to the next level, I understand KD is one of the best players in the NBA. I understand Kyrie is one of the best scorers in the NBA. So it's easy to come in there and have a positive influence. But I believe personally, his style, his changing of play and his acquiescing to the styles of KD and Kyrie have taken the Nets, made them even more dangerous. And in my mind, that's what makes him one of the most valuable players in the NBA. That's why he deserves to be in the MVP conversation. Again, it's easy when you have three of the best players in the NBA to have success. But because of the styles, because of their personalities, there's a lot of doubts, deservedly so, that this would work. Even just 3 weeks ago. Remember when we talked about Steph Curry's MVP candidacy? Wasn't getting a lot of respect, wasn't getting a lot of love, despite the fact that his numbers were very, very similar to when he won unanimously back in 2015, 2016. Points per game, threes, shooting percentage. But because the Warriors' record this year wasn't the 73 in Warriors pace that was when he won the unanimous MVP 5 years ago, He was 7th on the list. Well, that same ESPN straw poll 3 weeks ago gave 15 names of the 100 voters. So there's 100 voters, straw poll, MVP. Who do you got? Kevin Durant was on there. Out of 15 names, you know who was not on there? James Harden. And now, less than a month later, I think it's time to change that conversation. It's time to put his name in there with Joel Embiid, in there with Nikola Jokic, and really start having him be a top 3 when it comes to MVP conversation heading into the second half of the year. Because since coming over from Houston, specifically just when he's been with the Nets, this is what he has done. He scored 25.4 points per game. Not flashy, not crazy. But it's the other parts of his game that he has changed himself that to me make him worthy of this award. Assists per game. He's averaging 11.4 assists per game. Not only leads the tops in the NBA, career high for James Harden. 8.7 rebounds per game since coming over from Houston to go to the Nets. Also a career high. Now, this is where, to me, it's also impressive, and I give James Harden a lot of doubt coming in, and I give him a lot of credit now for changing the way I feel about it. His efficiency has gone through the roof. He's shooting 42.2% from 3, a career high. 49.7% from the field, a career high. So he has not only changed his style, he's done 2 things I thought there was no shot in hell he'd be doing. Because again, what did we say before? Can't teach an old dog new tricks. He's been in the league a long time. We know who James Harden, the player, is. We know what his style is. We know how he wants to win. 2 of the things that you can say that's never been said about James Harden and his playing style is that he's selfless and that he's efficient. Well, he's been both of those things in Brooklyn. And that's a large reason why, KD or not, this team is still winning. Because again, we just listed all the different friends and players that have come to Houston to try to make a dynamic duo with James Harden. Dwight Howard didn't work out. Chris Paul didn't work out. Russell Westbrook didn't work out. John Wall never got a chance. Who didn't want to play with him. But all those guys have come in and they have gone out pretty quickly. Why? Because he didn't change his style. He wasn't a team first guy. He was a me first guy. How am I going to get my points? How am I going to get my scoring? And his style didn't work well with others. So if he was that bad at playing with other star players, why would anyone, including myself, think that he's going to now go to the Nets and change his stripes? Be a selfless player. Pass first instead of shoot first. But that's what he's done. He's thinking about, how can I set up Kyrie? How can I set up KD? Joe Harris, Bruce Brown. This is the other thing, too, with KD out. He is still dishing out assists at a career rate. He's given Joe Harris love. He's lobbing it up to DeAndre Jordan. Younger players like Bruce Brown, he's given them looks. He has totally bought in to team first basketball for the first time, we'll say, since he left OKC. When he really became a star, when he really became the franchise player, face of the franchise kind of player. So this is the first time he's been selfless since rising to that stardom. And this is really the first time he's been efficient. Now, he will have games, don't get me wrong, where he will shoot 16 of 20, be unconscious. But as we know, a lot of James Harden's scoring comes on volume and free throw shooting. He'll get you 40 points, but sometimes it'll come on 25, 27 shots. He's not shy to chuck it up. He will always be, before coming to Brooklyn, the guy taking the most shots on the team on a per-game basis. But he's not doing that in Brooklyn. If anything, of the big 3, the 7 games they play together, James Harden is averaging by far the least amount of shots of those 3 and the least amount of shots he's taken in his career. But not only is he taking less shots, he's making more. He's improved his efficiency. And that's, again, being selfless and being efficient is 2 things I never envisioned happening with James Harden at this point in his career, going to a new team, trying to play with KD, trying to play with Kyrie, more importantly Kyrie, because I think there's more questions there. But he has done it. And that's why I want to give him a lot of credit. And that's why, at least to me, I think he deserves to be in the MVP conversation. I'm not even saying he should win it right now. If the season ended today, he'd probably be 3rd. I would probably give it to Joel Embiid 1 and Nikola Jokic 2. But he's having a similar impact like those 2 are having. Because, well, yes, again, there's more star power in the Nets. I understand that. I'm not trying to compare the roster of the Nets, saying it's equal or equivalent to the Sixers or equivalent to the Nuggets. But it almost makes it more impressive in my mind when you go to a new team, when you have so many options, when you have so many mouths to feed, and you're able to improve your efficiency. You're not getting down when you're only getting, let's say, 10 shots a game when you're used to 17 or 18. And you're putting your teammates in spots to shoot and score, even if they're not star players to the caliber of Durant and Irving. So since James Harden has come over from Houston, the Nets are 17-6. Now, in that time, the big three haven't played a lot together. Like I just said, they've only played 7 games together. KD has missed 14 games in that span. Kyrie has missed 5 for different, reasons here and there. They're still winning. They're still winning, despite that KD has been out. They've won 10 out of 11. KD's played 1 game. The Warriors game. And let's look at, maybe this is unfair, but let's call it for what it is. Let's look at the Lakers, right? Because, Kevin Durant, one of the best players in the NBA. Anthony Davis, one of the best players in the NBA. Well, the Nets are rolling. They're hitting their stride. We look at the Lakers. They're 7-7 without AD. 7-6 when LeBron's on the line because he didn't play last night. So that's a team, one of the best teams in the NBA. I think, at least coming into the year, the team that we all thought by far the favorite to go to the finals, to win the finals. I think some people, including myself, still feel that way. Not too concerned about the AD injury. As long as he's back to the playoffs, I think the Lakers will be right there. I think they will win a second title in a row. But even they are struggling, even with having LeBron James, one of the best players in the NBA, on their team. That's how much of an impact Anthony Davis has had, or his absence has had, because the Lakers are scuffling right now. But even with KD out of the lineup, the Nets are still winning games, and they're beating great teams. The Clippers, the Lakers, the Suns on a road trip. And they're doing so in large part because of James Harden's play, his pass first, his selflessness, his efficiency. He has changed his game completely from what we've known, what we've seen, what we've enjoyed from his time in Houston. And that, to me at least, I want to give him a lot of credit. You know what? I feel like we don't do that enough. I feel like we don't give players enough credit for sometimes taking a backseat, for putting the team first. And I understand maybe that's an obvious statement when you try to win a title, and maybe easier to do when you have such great players on your team. But at the same time, we don't always see that. We don't always see that. So yeah, I feel like, part of the award now, again, maybe that, to me at least, that is what increases his value when it comes to this award. Because of his ability to put the team first, because of his ability to make the team better by taking a step back, that's what he's been doing. That's why, to me at least, I think he deserves to be an MVP candidate for sure. If this continues, I think he has a legitimate argument, a legitimate case to win the award. So this is going to be a very fun second half of the year. I give his arrival a lot of credit so far for what he has done since coming to Brooklyn. And I would love to see it continue. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. In your mind, does James Harden deserve to be in the MVP conversation? Does his name deserve to be with the likes of Joel Embiid, who's having a hell of a year in Philly? Nikola Jokic, the Joker, who's making history. So all the triple doubles that he's collecting right now in Denver. I think yes. I'm curious your thoughts. Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You can comment right there in the live stream. Twitter, WWSRN_radio on Twitter. Add Ryan Hickey Show if you want to tweet me directly. Or if you go to either of those Twitter accounts, you could see the Periscope live stream of the show. Click on that. You can comment right there on Periscope as well. We'll get your thoughts. Read them on the air. Does James Harden deserve MVP consideration? We'll get your thoughts. And when we come back, we'll stick with the NBA. Because again, All-Star Weekend is this weekend. About, give or take, halfway through the year. Let's just call it halfway. Come on. Do we really want to get exact here with 72 games divided by 2? I don't even know what that is off the top of my head. I probably should. 36. We're just about there. Who has been the biggest disappointments in each conference? Who has been the biggest surprises in each conference? We'll discuss both of those next. It is the Ryan Hickey Show right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Welcome back to the Ryan Hickey Show, right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
I guess we're back. My apologies. My bad. See, we're still trying to work out the kinks here. New studio, trying to get everything kind of set. New computer. So not everything is set up the way I'm used to being set up for almost a year. Kind of realizing now, this show started almost right when the pandemic started, to be honest. It was about late March, early April, I think. So we're closing in on a year since the Ryan Hickey show launched. Or really, I guess, was rebranded, if you will, from the Morning Boys. But either way, since kind of the show got resumed after it took about a month hiatus. So everything was on the one computer that I'm used to. Obviously, as you know, if you're used to watching the show, you see all the pictures of Steve Jobs and Gandhi and a lot of those other influencers around the world behind me. Now it's just a bookcase currently that will be subject to change soon. But with the new studio, we're still trying to work out some of the kinks. This is the first show, and some of that includes the commercial logs and getting that all situated out. And as you can see, wasn't ready to come back, but here we are. The show must go on. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Twitter, WWSRN_radio, at Ryan Hickey Show, also on Twitter. I'm laughing just because my dad loves the new studio. He has to make that known on Facebook. So if you want to check out his comment, there you go. You can go right to Facebook and check him out. He is loving the new setup. Hopefully you are as well. But I'd love to hear your thoughts because we just talking about James Harden. Does he deserve to be an MVP candidate? Again, sounds crazy when you're playing with the likes of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. When you're on the Nets, one of the best teams in the NBA, you want to take away, you want to punish him for what happened at Houston. I know some people are. I personally don't. I'm not going to hold that against him. I'm not going to, look at what happened in Houston with him forcing his way out as a negative as to why I don't think he should win the award. Personally, I look at it more on the court play as a determining factor. And I believe his play is warranted of MVP talk. I truly do. We've seen LeBron now have an opportunity with Anthony Davis out to take over the Lakers team to really try to cement his case as the MVP, and he struggled to do so. Again, they're just 7-6 now. It's unfair to put wins and losses on one player. They're 7-6 with LeBron on the court and AD off the court since he got hurt with his Achilles injury. Well, the Nets are still winning without Kevin Durant in the lineup. They're going into the break winners of 10 of their last 11. 17-6 since James Harden's arrival. They've only played 7 games together. That's it. So they're 5-2 with those 3 on the court. Excuse me. So quick math, they're 12-4 with James Harden, whether he's playing by himself or playing with Kyrie. Pretty impressive. So up to your thoughts. Do you think James Harden deserves MVP consideration? Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Twitter, WWSRN_radio, or on Twitter at Ryan Hickey Show. Comment on the live stream on Periscope. Comment on the live stream on Facebook. Tweet me directly if you want. Again, at Ryan Hickey Show. Or at WWSRN_radio. Make sure to follow us, Worldwide Sports Radio Network on Twitter. Like us on Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Like us on YouTube, Worldwide Sports Radio Network that way. And most importantly, make sure to download the app because that way you can get every single show that goes live. You get an alert. You will not miss out because we have a ton of great shows, a ton of great content every single day, weekday, weeknight, weekend, doesn't matter. We are pumping out content on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. The best way for you to follow along, download the app, WWSRN. If you have an iPhone, Worldwide Sports Radio Network for you Android folks. Again, liking us on Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network, following us on Twitter at WWSRN_radio. So we'll finish off the first hour here with some more NBA talk. And again, because we're halfway through the NBA season unofficially with the All-Star break covered this week, I think it's fair to say, or we can take a look back on the first half of the season. What has surprised you? What has disappointed you? Which teams have been like, oh, wow, look at them. Look at the standings. Hold on. What? They're this good? Or what? Hold on. This team is all the way down there? Out of the playoffs, 8th seed, barely fighting to stay in. There's been surprises. There's been disappointment. So why not? We'll go through Western Conference, Eastern Conference. Which team has been most surprising? Which team has been the biggest disappointment? We will start in the East. We will start with my beloved New York Knicks. Because we really haven't given them a lot of love on the show. And they deserve it. They're 18-18, currently fifth in the Eastern Conference, and that is also, to be fair, an indictment on the conference itself because it has just been putrid, to be fair, to be frank. So I am very happy the Knicks are doing well. At the same time, the fact they're 18-18 and 5th, not the greatest endorsement for the Eastern Conference. But honestly, though, do I need to explain myself? Well, at least in my mind, the Knicks are the biggest surprise in the Eastern Conference. As a Knicks fan myself, I thought they had 18 wins all year. And here they are, going up on the halfway point of the season, already in a playoff spot. I mean, Julius Randle has been absolutely incredible, very deserving of his all-star bid, really putting the offense on his back, and has blossomed in this Tom Thibodeau scheme. Speaking of Thibodeau, I will be honest, I will admit when I'm wrong plenty of times, so you heard a lot on this show, and I was wrong about Tom Thibodeau. When the Knicks were conducting their head coaching search, I personally wanted Kenny Atkinson, the former Nets coach, because when you look at the Knicks roster, it was going to be built on a lot of young guys. They're going to be drafting. So you have 2 first-round draft picks coming up in the draft that they took Obi Toppin and Emmanuel quickly. Try to get that out without going on the air, and I guess it did. My apologies. But they had a very young roster. RJ Barrett, they drafted high last year. They have just a lot of guys that need development that I feel personally haven't been developed. And when we look at what Kenny Atkinson built in Brooklyn, where he built that team from the ground up, built it on culture, developed the young players to the point where the Nets made the playoffs without a star, and the Nets were so attractive that KD said, I'm leaving the Warriors to go to Brooklyn. Kyrie said, I'm going to join with you. And James Harden even, now this is when not Kenny Atkinson was there, obviously, but even James Harden then wanted to say, I'm out of Houston. I want to go to Brooklyn. Brooklyn automatically became a destination in part because of what Kenny Atkinson built from the ground up with young players, developing a culture to where they were a star player or two from being legitimate finals contenders, which they are right now. That's what I was hoping. That to me was the direction the Knicks needed to go in because they have felt for the longest time, we are a star away from winning a title. LeBron James coming to New York, will win a title here. You'll be the king. Well, as we know, LeBron James goes elsewhere. Every single year, the Knicks are in a conversation for whoever the big free agent is. Every single year, Knicks fans, including myself, get hyped up, excited. Oh, this is going to be the year. This is going to be the year. And what happens, as we know, they don't sign anybody. Unless it's Amari Stoudemire because he's injured, and they give him the biggest deal by far. So now, for the first time, there's actual, at least to me, real excitement, real joy of watching this Knicks team because they are young. They are legitimate. They are actually fun to watch because the young guys are growing. They're developing before your eyes. And that is a large credit to Tom Thibodeau. I was wrong saying that they shouldn't have hired him. I did not like the hiring when it went down, and I have been dead wrong, and I could not have been happier to be wrong. Again, Julius Randle has exploded. Still very young. Emmanuel quickly. How about this? The New York Knicks getting a steal in the draft? What? How many times have they drafted someone high and they flamed out? They haven't worked out. They've been a bust. And now the Knicks, with Emmanuel quickly, get someone who is legitimately a very good player. And he right now could finish top 3 in Rookie of the Year. That's how good he's been. And Tom Thibodeau, to his credit, has legitimately changed the culture in New York, and that's led to an 18-18 season, 5th in the East. No one saw that coming, not even yours truly. Well, not even, I feel like it sounds very pompous. I apologize. Especially, I should say, yours truly. That wrong I am. So credit to you, New York. It's been a lot of fun. This team is must-watch television for the first time in a while. It's been a joy and a pleasure watching them. So the New York Knicks, in my mind, biggest surprise coming out of the East. Really, no, that's not earth-shattering. It's not groundbreaking. Biggest disappointment, really not going to be earth-shattering or groundbreaking either. Boston Celtics, 18-17, 4th in the Eastern Conference now. Still a top 4 team. But this is, I honestly, I will say this. I went through the East. I tried my hardest to find another team that wasn't the Celtics that was disappointing because when you look at the numbers, when you watch them on the court, when you see the roster construction, should we really honestly be surprised that the Celtics are kind of where they are? Because let's just call for what it is. Surprising would mean that we didn't see things coming. Well, what you would think you would see coming, and what has happened, is that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown will be great. And they have been great this year. Both averaging just under 25 points a game, both going to the All-Star game this year. They have delivered. That 1-2 punch has been dynamic. So it's not like Jason Tatum's having a below average season. It's not like Jaylen Brown is regressing. And that's led to the Celtics' slow start to the season. No. They've been great. They've been advertised. The issue is the depth has been depleted, And this is not just this year and not because of injuries. This has really kind of been over the last few years. They've continually lost depth. They have lost experience. And now when you look at the roster, they are just relying on first and second year guys, inexperienced players to soak up a lot of minutes, and it's not working. So should we really be surprised? No. But there was no other team in the East I could really justify saying is more surprising than the Celtics, so I will give them this. Because obviously Marcus Smart's been hurt. He's missed a lot of the year. But over the years, they've lost Terry Rozier. They've lost Marcus Morris. They've lost Al Horford. Gordon Hayward leaves this past offseason. They lost a lot of depth. They lost a lot of role players. And again, haven't really been able to replace them with better players. Robert Williams has been up and down. Peyton Pritchard's a rookie who's actually fitting nicely, but still a first-year player. Jeff Teague has been a disappointment. Aaron Nesmith, Tristan Thompson. Like a lot of these guys they're getting some big minutes, and it's tough to rely on them to get the job done. So yes, the Celtics by far so far the biggest disappointment. I feel like maybe we shouldn't be surprised, but yet again, what else are we going to do? So biggest surprise in the East, the Knicks. Biggest disappointment in the East, the Celtics. In the West, biggest surprise by far. Actually, I don't know by far. I think you can go a bunch of different ways here. The easy answer would be the Jazz, excuse me. I'm going to go the Spurs. Because they're 18-13. They are 5th in the Western Conference. And they are getting it done by means that you would not expect, that you would think that would not really work in today's NBA. Because what is in vogue in the NBA? What works? What wins now in the NBA? Dynamic duos. Any team at the top of the East, top of the West, they have a 1-2 punch. Well, the Spurs don't have that. Instead, they're getting it done as a team without really any stars. They've had 9 different lead scorers in games this season, most in the NBA. They have a top 10 defense in San Antonio that's won them a lot of games. And even still, they've done this with a COVID pause in the middle, and they've still beaten good teams like the Clippers, the Lakers, the Blazers, the Celtics, the Nuggets. They've done it all. So credit to them, San Antonio. I did not see them coming at all. They missed the playoffs last year. If you remember going back to the bubble, they were awful in the restart. I thought they were going to get worse this year. They've gotten better. Credit to them. Big surprise. Big disappointment in the West, the Dallas Mavericks. 17-16, 10th in the West, still in the playoff hunt because of the expanded format. But Kristaps Porzingis has been slow to return to the lineup. Luka Doncic can't do it all by himself. The threes aren't falling. Their defense is very bad. That's led to the Mavericks 17-16. So biggest disappointment in the West, the Spurs. Biggest disappointment in the West, the Mavericks. Biggest surprise, the Spurs. What is your biggest surprise in the NBA? Facebook, Worldwide Sports Network. Twitter, WWSRN_radio. We'll get your thoughts. And when we come back, does J.J. Watt going to the Cardinals make them a playoff contender? We'll discuss next. It's the Ryan Hickey Show right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Broadcasting from coast to coast,
City to city, coast to coast.
it's time for the Ryan Hickey Show on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. If it's happening in sports, it's being talked about right here. And here's your host, Ryan Hickey.
And welcome back into the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Hour number 2 of the Ryan Hickey Show with you, taking you until 11 a.m. Eastern, as you do every Monday and every Thursday right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. As a reminder, we're coming to you, as you always are, from the Big Italy Pizzeria Studios with its great pizza, hot heroes, and phenomenal dinners. Check out Big Italy Pizzeria in person in Medford. Excuse me, easy for me to read. I've only read that how many times? Crushed it. Joe's Pizzeria in Bayshore. Classic New York pizza joint that just opened up in Bayshore. Bayshore, great spot to be, just saying. Or online, wherever you are on Long Island, or in the great United States, at BigItalyPizza.com. So just wrapping up the first hour, I should say, talking about the biggest disappointments, the biggest surprises in the NBA so far, because they're basically about the halfway point of the year. I said surprise, Knicks in the East. Surprise in the West was the Spurs. What they've been doing is just incredible so far. Credit to you, Greg Popovich. Did not see their 18-13 season coming, that's for sure. And in terms of disappointments, the Celtics, I said in the East, although, again, I feel like their depth, we should have seen this coming. But with that said, still don't really have a better option. So we will go with the Celtics. And disappointment so far in the West, the Mavericks 17, 16, 10th in the West. Porzingis now playing great. As we know, even there are some trade rumors that came out of the Mavericks potentially looking into what Kristaps Porzingis could get in a trade, what the return could be. So things aren't great so far in Dallas. Plenty of time. You still have Luka Doncic. You always have a chance. That is for sure. But we'll see if they can turn around the second half of the season. Jared Harvin. Appreciate you listening, Jared, on Facebook. Writes, it's the Knicks for me. I agree. If we're talking about either biggest surprise or biggest disappointment, what one team did you not see their season, good or bad, having? I'm with Jared. To me, it's the Knicks. Nowhere did I see this explosion happening. So credit to them, credit to Tom Thibodeau. It's been a lot of fun and a lot of joy to watch. So if you have any other NBA thoughts, should James Harden be in the MVP conversation? What team has been the biggest disappointment in your mind so far halfway through the year? What team has been the biggest surprise halfway through the year? Plenty of ways to comment. Facebook, Worldwide Sports Network. You can comment right there in the live stream. Twitter, you want to tweet me directly at Ryan Hickey Show. You can tweet us on the network at WWSRN_radio. Or if you go to either of those two Twitter handles, you will see a live stream of the show. Comment right there at Periscope. Comment your thoughts. We'll get them. We'll read them on the air before we get out of here at 11 a.m. Eastern. So we did do a lot of NBA in the first hour. I want to get some NFL here in hour number 2. While the price for a franchise quarterback in my mind is not too great, no matter what the deal is, I'll tell you that in 15 minutes. It's possible new overtime changes that could be coming. We'll do that to end the show at 10:40. But I want to talk about the news that happened a few days ago with J.J. Watt signing in Arizona. Big surprise. Didn't really see that coming. I thought it'd be a Super Bowl contender or an obvious Super Bowl contender is what we'll say. Packers, Bills, Browns. There are some other teams in the mix, some teams, but either way, he goes to Arizona, 2-year deal, $31 million, high, $23 million guaranteed, which is pretty, a good amount of money for someone of J.J. Watt's status and caliber right now, which, unfortunately for him, the injuries have been more the story for him the last few years than his really actual production on the field. So what does this do for Arizona? Does this make the Cardinals a playoff team? Does this change in your mind your thoughts about how you view the Cardinals? Do you view them any differently now than you did a week ago, this time last week, this time over the weekend? Because I'll be honest, I don't want to use this segment to bash J.J. Watt, and I'm not going to, but I will say this about him and where he is right now in his playing career. To me, he's more hype than substance right now for where he is as a player. Like the name, J.J. Watt, oh man, this is awesome. This is such a great signing. We should really, I wish my team got J.J. Watt. To me, his name, his aura, his presence, what we think about J.J. Watt is greater than currently what it is right now in present day. Because look at last year. I mean, it's like he was tearing it up for the Texans. Now, again, granted, there was no one on that team good. He was getting double and triple team because he's really the only threat on that horrendous Texans defense. But just 5 sacks, 17 quarterback hits last season. Not great. Not really even good. Just, average. The injury concerns are there because the last 5 years he's only played 2 full seasons out of those 5 years. And not to mention, the years he's been hurt. It's like he's playing 14 games or 15 games and he's just missing one here or there. The other 3 seasons that he has not played a full season, he hasn't even played more than 8 games. So the last 5 years, he's played 2 full seasons. The other 3 seasons, he hasn't even played half a year. So when he's missing time, it's a significant chunk of time. So when I look at this signing for Arizona, that's why I don't really change my opinion of them one way or another going into 2021. Obviously, they were just on the brink, on the cusp of making the playoffs last year. They win it, they're in against the Rams. As you know, Kyler Murray gets hurt. Didn't work out. But so they're close. They're not that far off. But at the same time, this signing to me doesn't really do anything for the Cardinals' playoff hopes because J.J. Watt can't be relied upon, at least to me, to kind of be a monster up front, to unleash that defensive line. Sure, he'll be helped out by Chandler Jones being there. And, the Cardinals were 4th in sacks last year, so that will help J.J. Watt himself. Maybe get more one-on-one look. Maybe that will help him. But when it comes to just looking at this signing on the surface, I don't see the Cardinals now becoming a playoff team just because of the J.J. Watt signing. Now, I say that to say this, because there is one move in my mind that I think the Cardinals can make that could make them playoff contenders, that can make them legitimate contenders in the NFC West, that can make them legitimate contenders in the NFC. The issue is they're not going to make that move. Not this offseason. It's there if they want to. They're not going to make it. And here's what I mean by that. The one change they can make, the one move they can make that to me at least would really escalate their playoff hopes, their playoff chances in 2021, would be getting a new head coach. Moving on from Cliff Kingsbury, bringing someone else in to get the most out of Kyler Murray, get the most out of this offense, get the most out of this team. So I'll be honest. The thing I thought about J.J. Watt when he signed this, okay, again, maybe this is a chance for him to rejuvenate his career. Maybe things got stale where he's going to be more energized, more focused, ready to go and have a big bounce back in Arizona. Maybe that's the case. I'm not believing in it, but maybe that's the case. But even if that happens, am I still believing that that was the missing piece for the Cardinals to get to the playoffs? I don't. In part because I can't trust this team. I can't buy into this team. Even though I love Kyler Murray, I can't buy in, I can't trust when Cliff Kingsbury is still calling the shots. When he is still the head coach of this team, when he is still the one in charge of making decisions. Because you know what he does? This is not a one-off. This is not something that happened once and okay, it's not his fault. He has melted late in games, late in the season, every single year he's been a head coach and not just in the NFL. Let's look. Okay, we're going to go through a quick exercise here. We'll go through, since 2013, he was hired at Texas Tech to be their head coach. Every year from 2013 to 2020, Cliff Kingsbury has been head coach either at Texas Tech or with the Cardinals. Let's look at the end of season finishes for those teams with Cliff Kingsbury as head coach. The Cardinals in 2020 were 6-3. If you remember, don't forget, this is a team they got their sixth win on a Hail Murray. Remember that incredible Hail Mary completion from Kyler Murray to DeAndre Hopkins with like 1 second left to beat the Bills. That win propelled them to 6-3. That offense for Arizona at that point, 9 games in, was number 1 in the league. What happened? They go from 6-3, they finished 2-5. That offense that was number 1 through 9 games averages 20.5 points per game the final 7 games of the year. They finish 8-8. They missed the playoffs, Even in an expanded year, they missed the playoffs. So, okay. 6-3, 2-5 finish. Maybe this is a one-off. Maybe this is something you know what? We'll move past. The Cardinals will bounce back from Cliff Kingsbury. We'll learn from, and they'll be better in 2021. Well, let's go to 2019. How did they finish the final 9 games of the year? 2-7. Let's go to college. 2018, Cliff Kingsbury, Texas Tech, Red Raiders. They're shooting. They're playing great. They're 5-2. Hot start. You know what their final record was? 5-7. That's right. They finished the year 0-5. 2017, 4-1 start. Okay, things are cooking. We're looking good. Well, they finished 2-6. 2016, they start 3-1. Again, another promising start. They also finished, just like 2017, they also finished the year 2-6 the last 8 games. 2015, all right, they're 5-2. No way that they are going to be they're going to let this 5-2 start fool them again. They finished 2-4, the final 6 games of the year. They finished 2-8 in 2014, the final 10 games of the year. They start 2013, Cliff Kingsbury's first year as a head coach. First year ever as a head coach when he's at Texas Tech in 2013. The Red Raiders are 7-0. 7-0. Okay. We got someone here. Mike Leach, who? Red Raiders, baby. We are firing on all cylinders. We are looking good. We are pushing Oklahoma around. We're pushing Texas around. Here come the Red Raiders. And so they fall or finish 1-5 on the year, the final 6 games. They go from 7-0 to 8-5. This is a pattern for Cliff Kingsbury where his teams, college or pro, Cardinals or Raiders, Red Raiders, really, technically, they melt in the second half of the year. And to me, that is on large part of Cliff Kingsbury. It's not a coincidence. It is not some outrageous, insane coincidence where these teams all melt the second half of the year. And it just so happens that Cliff Kingsbury is head coach. These are habits that he has that aren't getting fixed, that are leading to these slow finishes. He doesn't seem to adjust well. He seems to maybe have a good game plan to get things going. When teams adjust, he cannot counter adjust. Teams figure him out, and he can't get a new blueprint, a new wrinkle in there to keep teams on their toes. So I'll be honest. That's where my brain went when this J.J. Watt deal happened with Arizona. Some of it has to do with J.J. Watt, where I think, to me, at least the name weighs more than actual play on the field. I think there's, he leaves, to me, at least a lot to be desired from when he was at his peak, when he was at his heyday, winning 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards. He's incredible. One of the best defensive players to ever play the game when he does, hang it up eventually and when he retires. But right now, going to a new team, to me, he's not the reason and the difference that will make the Cardinals a playoff team next year. And again, there is one move that could be made. It's finding a new head coach. It's getting the most and unlocking Kyler Murray, which I think another head coach could do. It's even just keeping up with adjustments. I mean, even the games they're winning. I remember specifically the Giants game stands out in my mind, one of the 2 wins they had the last half of the year. Scored 26 points. That offense was tough to watch. I'm trying to even just think of the adjectives. It was clunky. It was stop and go. It was almost like you were in traffic. Oh, we're going to get somewhere. Okay, we're going. Oh, put the brakes on. We're going to stop. Oh, okay, we're going. The cars are moving now, but I think we're past it. Hit the brakes. That's like all game. And just he couldn't adjust. He couldn't let this offense unleash the way it did in the first half of the year when they were number 1 in total offense in the NFL. So, sure, I mean, Cardinals fans rejoice. Maybe, again, this rejuvenation of J.J. Watt leads them to being a more formidable front 4, maybe a better defense. But in my mind, this team is not legit. This is not real enough. J.J. Watt, going to a team, the reason we bring this up is J.J. Watt wants to go to a winner. He wants to try to win a Super Bowl. He wants to try to get a ring. He thinks Arizona is maybe one of the best chances to do so. It could be. It absolutely could be. They have some pieces in place there, at least to me, that you need to be a Super Bowl contender. But with that said, with Cliff Kingsbury still your head coach, can't see it happening. Can't see it happening. So I'm curious your thoughts. Love to hear them on Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Twitter, WWSRN_radio, or on Twitter at Ryan Hickey Show. Does J.J. Watt, does this signing make the Cardinals a playoff team? Does this change the needle on how you view Arizona heading to 2021? Are they a lock to make the playoffs next year? Or is this, doesn't really do much for you? Isn't really the move the Cardinals needed to make? Isn't really the move that will have you feeling like, wow, the Cardinals are legit? So if we're looking still in the NFC West even, I don't even really view, I still think I would have them 4th, to be honest. I have the Rams ahead of them. I'd probably have the 49ers ahead of them. I'd definitely have the Seahawks ahead of them. This doesn't do much for me, in part because, again, of who the head coach is there. And to me, at least, I think he's holding them back. So does this J.J. Watt signing in your mind change your opinion of the Cardinals one way or another? Are they a playoff team in your mind? Facebook, Worldwide Sports Network, Twitter, WWSRN_radio, at Ryan Hickey Show, also on Twitter if you want to tweet me there. Comment on the live stream on Periscope, comment on the live stream on Facebook, or read your thoughts. And when we come back, 2 general managers in the NFL spoke yesterday about their current quarterback. They spoke glowingly. They spoke very highly of their current guy. Well, hearing those glowing regards for their quarterback, it has me thinking, it has me realizing. When franchise quarterbacks are available, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, no price is too high. I'll explain what I mean when I come back. It is the Ryan Hickey Show right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Welcome back to the Ryan Hickey Show, right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
And welcome on back into the Ryan Hickey Show with you right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, taking you until 11 a.m. Eastern. We just finished talking about J.J. Watt, his signing with the Arizona Cardinals. Does that signing, in your mind, make the Cardinals contenders? Because for me, the answer is no, I don't. I don't think they are contenders. I don't think he really changes my outlook, my thoughts on the Cardinals, in part because of who the head coach is there in Cliff Kingsbury. As long as Cliff is a head coach in Arizona, at least to me, I can't really view this team as legitimate, really playoff threats and even teams favored to go to the playoffs because of how his teams have historically, year after year after year, from 2013 now through 2020, fallen on their face in the second half of the year. The one constant in that, Cliff Kingsbury is the head coach. So I'm curious your thoughts. I'd love to hear them on Facebook, Worldwide Sports Network, Twitter, WWSRN_radio, or also on Twitter, at Ryan Hickey Show. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Are the Cardinals playoff contenders in your mind with the signing of J.J. Watt? Does this change your thinking of the Cardinals going into 2021? We'll get your thoughts. We'll read them before we get out of here in about 40 minutes, 11 a.m. Eastern. But I do want to stick with the NFL, and I do want to stick with acquisitions, if you will. Because obviously the story so far of the NFL offseason has been the quarterback carousel, right? A lot of quarterbacks on the free agent market, some quarterback trades we've already seen. The wheel and the carousel has been spinning. It has been very, very, very busy. Matthew Stafford going from Detroit to LA. Jared Goff going from LA to Detroit. Obviously, as we know, Carson Wentz getting traded to the Colts from the Eagles. But the two really big names now that we're kind of watching, that we are anticipating, that we're waiting on, are two whales. Two massive names, bona fide studs. One, I think, is a guarantee to get moved in Deshaun Watson. One is a far bigger question of if he will get moved in Russell Wilson. Now that's what at least the focus has kind of turned to. That's what a lot of discussion has been around, when it comes to the quarterback carousel so far in the NFL. What's the discussion? What do we all hear? Is he going to get traded? Where could he get traded to? What's the price going to be? And that last thing, to me, strikes an interesting chord. What is the price going to be? Because there's been an interesting dichotomy that has formed between NFL fans of all teams, not just Texans fans, not just Seahawks fans, not just Jets fans if their team is in the mix. It is basically between all fans have weighed on this opinion one way or another. And the two prevailing thoughts have been this. Either that's too much to give up for a guy like Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson. No way am I giving up all that draft capital or all those young players. I'm not giving up that much. That is too much. That's one side. The other side is take as many picks as you want. Nothing is too much. We'll do whatever it takes to try to get this trade done. There's no such thing as too many first-round picks. No such thing as too much to offer when it comes to trying to acquire top 5 quarterbacks in Deshaun Watson and or Russell Wilson. So I'm curious your thoughts. What side are you on? Are you on the side of you got to be careful with your draft assets? You can't be giving away 10 first-round picks. You can't be giving away all your young players. You can't be gutting your roster to bring in a quarterback and then have nothing around him. So where you don't want to make the trade because too much is included. Or are you on the side of nothing is too much? Nothing you could throw out there if you're the other team, if you're the Texans, nothing you could ask for, in my mind, I would say no. For me, personally, where I fall on this debate, if you will, or which side of the line, I am on the side of nothing is too much. There is no price in my mind that's off limits when it comes to trying to get a stud quarterback in Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson. Carson Wentz, the reason why, as a Colts fan, I really haven't talked about this too much, but we'll talk about it here quickly. The reason why, as a Colts fan, I'm excited about Carson Wentz is for the price they got him at. A second-round pick, maybe a first-round pick, and a third-round pick. You're buying in low for a guy with MVP potential where if he doesn't reach it, okay, it's not going to kill you. You're not giving up 5 first-round picks for a guy that flamed out. Or if he hits, you'll gladly give a first-round pick if that means you have a franchise quarterback for the next 10 years. A guy who can open up your Super Bowl window and get you there and win you the big game. So I like that because they bought low and they got in on an asset that is depreciated right now. That's not looking good, but has the potential to maybe rebuild his image and get back there. When we're talking about guys like Deshaun Watson, we're talking about Russell Wilson, even Aaron Rodgers, if he was to end up on the trade market. We know what they are. There's no questions of can this guy get our team to a Super Bowl? Is this guy elite? Is he a top 5 quarterback? Can he elevate his game to be like Patrick Mahomes, or can he keep up in a game that has Patrick Mahomes? Do we have a chance if we have Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers if we're going up against the Chiefs or the Buccaneers or the Saints? That answer is yes. That answer is 100% yes. So that's why in my mind, no price is too heavy, because as long as you have the quarterback, you have a bona fide stud, not a question mark. Not he's okay. Is he the best? No. Is he the worst? No. He's somewhere in the middle. We are talking about top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL in Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson. Nothing in my mind is too much, because those guys don't grow on trees. What is the one thing the quarterback carousel has taught us this year specifically? With the amount of guys on the move, with the amount of guys in free agency that are available, we know there's the quantity of quarterbacks is out there. Numbers wise, there are plenty of guys, if you want to sign, that are available to be signed. But what isn't there out there in the quarterback carousel? What is there in lack thereof? Quality. I don't know about you. When it comes to quarterbacks, I'll take quality over quantity. Other aspects of life, hey, if you're in college and, maybe sometimes quantity is better than quality. Plenty of areas where quantity is greater than quality, but not when it comes to franchise quarterbacks. Not when it comes to having the chance to acquire one of the best to ever do it. So that's why, in my mind, because there's not a lot of guys out there, don't grow on trees, because they are so hard to find. Think about it. This is a guarantee that you are getting. This is a guarantee that Deshaun Watson will come in there and be a top 5 quarterback. He had his best career season in Houston this past year with the worst possible supporting cast you could have for a great quarterback. Led the league in passing, career high in touchdown passes, career low in interceptions. Look who he's throwing the ball to. Look who he's handing the ball off to. Look who he's blocking from the offensive line. Look at the chaos that's happening right where the head coach used to be. Every factor was going against Deshaun Watson in 2020. He still had a career year. So yeah, wherever he goes, he is going to be a great quarterback for you in 2021 and in the future. So when you have a guarantee, when you have the ability to acquire a known commodity, no price is too much. 8 first. I said this before. I'll say it again. Before the Colts acquired Carson Wentz, and this is living in a total fantasy world, but if somehow the Texans thought, you know what, we don't care if we trade him individually or not, we'll trade him to whoever gives us the best offer. If I was the Colts, I would have given the Texans 8 first-round draft picks. 8. Don't care. Take as many as you want. If you want a first-round pick for every year he's on the team, so if he's there for the next 15 years on 15 first-round picks, take him. That's how much Deshaun Watson is worth. That's how good he makes the team, to where there's no amount of draft picks in my mind that I would say no way. I'll pass on a top 5 quarterback, so I'll take a shot in the draft at getting someone similar to him and hope to hit. That's another thing too. What is the best? If you're not going to trade for Deshaun Watson, if you're not going to trade for Russell Wilson if he was available, if you think that giving up 3, 4, 5 first-round picks is too much, okay. I don't disagree, but I'll ask you this. How else are you going to get a franchise quarterback? Free agency, as we know, a ton of quantity. Ton of free agent names that are quarterbacks on the open market this year. None really are quality quarterbacks that you want, that you feel good in, that you could sign to lead you to a Super Bowl next year. So that means, all right, you're going to have to go through the draft. Well, the issue is drafting a quarterback is far, far from a guarantee. Tanking doesn't really work. I feel like I've said this a ton. Tanking is not a strategy that really works a lot in the NFL, and here's why. So I went through top 10 quarterbacks taken since 1998. So I went back to when Peyton Manning was drafted number 1 overall back in 1998. 38 quarterbacks were taken in the top 10 for when their teams didn't trade up. Right? Because that, for example, the Chiefs trade up to number 10 to draft Patrick Mahomes. I'm not counting that because the Chiefs were a very good team. They traded up. This is about teams who want to embrace tanking, that think the best way to do so is get as high draft pick as possible, get the guy move forward. So teams that are in the top 10 of the draft that took a quarterback since 1998, 38 quarterbacks have been taken in the top 10 of teams that didn't trade up to get there. Do you know how many of those quarterbacks took their team to a Super Bowl? Their team that drafted them. 6. 6. 6 quarterbacks since 1998 taken in the top 10 have led their team to a Super Bowl. So I can't do any, much quick math. 6 divided by 38 is like less than 15%, maybe just about 15%. A less than 1 in 5 shot of getting a top 10 pick, a top 10 quarterback. Less than 1 in 5, you'll get to an actual Super Bowl. So it's anything but a crapshoot. I mean, this is basically you're kind of blindfolding yourself, picking out of a hat, and hoping you get lucky. That's essentially how drafting a quarterback has become now. So would you rather close your eyes, pick from a hat, hope to get lucky, hope to hit on a Peyton Manning, hope to hit on a Cam Newton if you're the Panthers, someone like that? Or would you rather trade for a bona fide stud that you know is good enough to get you to a Super Bowl? You know is a top 5 quarterback in the league without a doubt. That's right to me. Trading for Russell Wilson, trading for Deshaun Watson, if my team was available, was in the mix, give them as much as they want. Doesn't matter. Because those guys don't grow on trees. Those guys are so rare to acquire that out there, if you give up 10 first-round picks, the value of those 10 first-round picks still probably won't add up to what Deshaun Watson brings to the team. And let's just look at, I'll put it this way. Let's look at the NFL landscape right now, right? Honestly, how many teams feel good about their current quarterback situation? How many teams right now are sitting there saying, man, it is great to be us. We have a guy who can get us to a Super Bowl. We have a franchise quarterback that we believe can bring us there, can get us to the promised land. I counted 9 teams. The Bills with Josh Allen, I think, feel pretty good. The Browns with Baker Mayfield, I think, have to be encouraged coming off of 2020, going to 2021, the first time in Baker Mayfield's career, he'll have the same head coach and current system on offense from one year to the next. I think that bodes well for Cleveland. They're feeling probably pretty good about Baker Mayfield. The Ravens, Lamar Jackson, I think same thing. Chiefs, easy. Think of the Chargers. You're feeling pretty good about Justin Herbert. His rookie year, if you think that that's not an anomaly, not a fluke, he will continue to get better. Buccaneers, Tom Brady just won a Super Bowl. I'm sure you're feeling pretty good. Packers, Aaron Rodgers coming off the MVP. Feel like you're not out there looking for other options. The Seahawks, now I'll put them in this situation because maybe they don't trade Russell Wilson. If they don't, you got to feel pretty damn good that you have Russ right there, top 3 quarterback in the NFL on your team. And the Rams, I think the Rams feel pretty good with Matthew Stafford going into 2021. I don't really know any other team that feels not a guarantee, but feels that strongly that they are in an incredibly good spot when it comes to their current quarterback situation. So 9 teams out of 32, less than 1/3 of the league, to me at least, feels good about your current quarterback situation. So when there's an upgrade available, why wouldn't you do so? And instead, when you don't have one of those top quarterbacks in the NFL, I feel like it makes you think crazy things. This is what I mean by that. So yesterday, a few general managers had press conferences talking about, the upcoming draft, their current team status, etc. Well, Mike Mayock, general manager of the Las Vegas Raiders, a team that's been rumored to be in the quarterback carousel mix. There was reports that Derek Carr could be traded for 2 first-round picks. There was reports that the Raiders are trying to eclipse as many picks as possible to package those to give to the Texans for Deshaun Watson. The Raiders were on Russell Wilson's list of 4 teams he would approve a trade to. The Raiders have been in the mix for both quarterbacks for an upgrade. But yet, we don't have those guys. You say some crazy things. Here's Mike Mayock yesterday, feeling confident, to say at least, about Derek Carr.
I think Derek Carr had his best year yet under John Gruden. I think he's one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, and we could.
What the heck? Hold on. I told you we're trying to work out the kinks here. Wow. My apologies. I don't know what happened. Let me see if we could try that one more time. Here's Mike Mayock talking about Derek Carr and why he believes Derek Carr is his franchise guy.
I think he's one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, and we couldn't be happier with him. And I tell you every year, I mean, we evaluate every position every year. I have no idea who might call me or who might not call me. So you have to do the evaluations both on your own players and every other player in the league. And you got to stack your boards and understand what league value is all around the league. And we do that. But if you're asking me about Derek, I mean, I think John and I would both stand shoulder to shoulder and pound the table for Derek Carr.
Pound the table for Derek Carr. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL to career year under John Gruden last year. I understand Mike Mayock has to say that because he's under contract and you can't, you're not going to talk about other quarterbacks that aren't there and you won't be able to trade for it. And thus then you don't want to put your current starting quarterback, make him maybe force his way out or put yourself in a bad spot. But I mean, you're saying some crazy things about Derek Carr. He had a career year and the Raiders still missed the playoffs. He had a career year. The Raiders almost lost to the Jets. It was about Greg Williams going rogue and saying, we're blitzing everybody. What do you normally do? Play prevent? We're going to blitz everyone. We're sending the house. I mean, Derek Carr was okay last year. I guess he was good. He was decent. Is he going to be the reason, your team goes to the Super Bowl? No. Is he a top 10 quarterback in the NFL? No. I feeling that good about Derek Carr? No. God, no. And then top there, though. Rick Spielman. In a similar situation as Mike Mayock with a quarterback who's okay. Not bad. Average. Above average. Well, he was pretty excited to have Kirk Cousins be the future of the Vikings.
Kirk Cousins is our quarterback. I know there's a lot of rumors floating around out there, but Kirk Cousins is our quarterback. We felt that he played very well and probably the best he's ever played down that stretch last year in the way he played. So, Kirk's our quarterback going forward, and look forward to him another year in his system, and excited for him and what he's going to bring to our team next year.
So both Mike Mayock of the Raiders, Rick Spielman of the Vikings, both excited to have Derek Carr for the Raiders, Kirk Cousins of the Vikings be their quarterbacks going forward. Hearing those statements, hearing those gentlemen, truth or lie, feel excited, feel confident about the direction of their team led by said Derek Carr, said Kirk Cousins, to me just slams home the point. You heard Mike Mayock say we're standing on the table and pound the table for Derek Carr. Well, I'm going to sit here and pound the table saying if you have a chance to get a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, you do so. No price is too high. Do you want to be justifying yourself in your mind if you're a fan thinking, you know what? Yeah, maybe Derek Carr, if he just cuts things together, maybe if they open up the offense a little more, maybe if Henry Ruggs in year number 2 really kind of comes together, this Raiders team's going to be, we're going to give the Chiefs a run for their money. If you're a Vikings fan, Kirk Cousins, hey, last 5 games of the year when they are out of it, he played really well. Classic Kirk Cousins, he plays his best when the stakes are the lowest. But man, if Kirk Cousins can carry over the last 5 or 6 games into 2021, Dalvin Cook can carry over that career year he had. Maybe if Aaron Rodgers gets so peeved that he forces a trade from the Packers, maybe the Bears are just the Bears, so they're not going to be a real worry. The Lions are the Lions, so maybe if Aaron Rodgers forces his way out, maybe Jordan Love will play. He stinks, and next thing you know, the Vikings maybe could back their way into the playoff spot. Like the justifications, the hoops you have to go through, the mental gymnastics. If you're one of these teams without a top quarterback, it's exhausting. Exhausting. So would you rather be, I'll say this, would you rather make Mike Mayock and Rick Spielman feeling quote-unquote excited about Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins respectively, or would you rather be a team, maybe like it's like the Panthers, who according to reports, the Panthers will do whatever it takes to get Deshaun Watson. No amount of picks is too much. You want Christian McCaffrey? Take him. You want Robbie Anderson? Take him. You want Teddy Bridgewater? Take him. Which one would you rather be? Would you rather be David Tepper, the owner of the Panthers, Matt Rule, the head coach of the Panthers, talking about how they're excited to have a top quarterback in Deshaun Watson coming to Carolina. They can market their team, have him be the face of the franchise at 25. Maybe they get Russell Wilson if you want to get crazy here. Man, you get a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. Russ, Super Bowl winner. We're going to let him cook here. Would you have that excitement, or would you have the excitement about Derek Carr coming off a career year, Kirk Cousins coming off a career year? The answer is easy. So again, like I said before, there's no price that is too high when it comes to trying to get a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I've seen plenty of fans say, we can't give up that much for Deshaun Watson. We can't gut our team in order to try to get Deshaun Watson on this team. We can't, if you're the Jets, give up $1 million of our picks, give up Quinnen Williams, give up any young player with talent in order to get Deshaun Watson on this team. I ask you, what is your other option? Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields. I actually like all 3 of those quarterbacks. You know what all 3 have in common? No guarantee they'd even come close to reaching the level Deshaun Watson has already reached. That's why in my mind, again, the quantity is out there. There are plenty of quarterbacks in the NFL if you want to assign someone. If you want to just throw them on the team, hope in a prayer, hope, hey, maybe things break right. Maybe a miracle happens where everything, literally everything, goes right, and maybe we are in the mix for a playoff spot. Maybe somehow we're in the mix for the big dance. Or you could take the guaranteed route. You can give up whatever you got to give up to get a top guy on your team for the next 5 years at least. Yeah, I'll go with the guarantee. I'll go with the quality over the quantity. So I'm curious your thoughts. What side of the fence, what side of the line do you fall on? Are you someone who will clutch on to draft picks, don't want to give them up, only will acquire someone if it's the right price and you feel anything more than 3 first-round picks is too much? Or are you like me? Whatever it takes. Name the price. If I'm the Texans, this is how negotiations go. If I'm any other team. Nick Casario, the general manager. Cal McNair, the owner. Hello, fellas. How you guys doing? What do you want for Deshaun Watson? 10 first-round picks? Deal. 5 first-round picks on a player? Deal. Name the price. It's yours. I just want Deshaun Watson on my team. I just want Russell Wilson on my team if I'm talking to the Seahawks. Which side of the fence do you rely on again? Or lie on, I should say. Not rely on. Which side of the fence do you stand on? Facebook, Worldwide Sports Network. Twitter, WWSR_radio. Add Ryan Hickey Show, also on Twitter as well. We get your thoughts. And when we come back, we will finish off the show talking about potentially a new overtime rule coming to the NFL. Do you like it? Do you hate it? It's quirky. I will admit. It is something I can promise you we have never thought about, never heard before. Tell you what that solution is next. It is the Ryan Hickey Show right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Welcome back to the Ryan Hickey Show, right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Train what's under the armor.
And welcome on back into the Ryan Hickey Show with you right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Same show, Ryan Hickey Show, same time, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern, same days, Monday and Thursday. New look, new studio, new chain, new background, new camera view. Hopefully you're liking it. It's you're appreciating the change. It makes it maybe the viewing experience, the listening experience, the show itself a little bit better. That's what we're shooting for here. That's what we're hoping for. That's why we make the change in the first place, to be honest, to try to make the show better. If you don't like it, if you hate it, well, I'll try. Maybe I'll put I don't know. I'll figure something out to where I will not be, I'll make it better, a better experience for that going forward. We'll take suggestions, if you will, but hopefully you're enjoying the new setup. Should have a green screen, hopefully, in the background for Monday. Should make it even a little bit more presentable, a little bit cooler. So we're working here. It's a work in progress, but hopefully we're building up the studio to be a little bit nicer, make the experience of the Ryan Hickey Show a little bit better. So we're talking about really a lot of NFL here to finish off the show. And some changes potentially could be coming to overtime in the NFL. NFL overtime has been a hot button issue, right? It's been a hot topic. Should the coin toss really determine who gets the ball first? Should the coin toss, in some cases, if the offense scores a touchdown, determine essentially because of the way the game is turned to where it's so offensive heavy, it gives a team an advantage to those who win the coin toss? Should we allow the coin toss essentially to dictate the outcome of games sometimes, in some cases? Or do you like it? Now I'll say this before I get into the proposed rule change here. I actually like overtime. I have no issue with it. To me, again, needing it when the team needs a touchdown, that still levels the playing field. Field goal is one thing with the field goal kickers now and how easy it is to get yards. I think it's a little extreme where a field goal, sudden death, if you will. But just asking your defense to not prevent a touchdown, to me, I think it is not a crazy ask. Even with a lot of the rules benefiting the offense, even with now the way the game is played, shifted to an offensive philosophy, offense wins. It's an offensive dominant league. I still think, again, asking your defense just don't allow a touchdown isn't the craziest thing in the world. It's not the hardest thing to do. So with that, I have no problem with overtime. I know many people have pounded the drum, pounded their fist, pounded the table. That overtime needs to change. We can't allow the coin toss to determine who gets the ball in order to essentially end the game because, as we know, offenses are so good that if you get the ball, maybe more times than not, depending on who the quarterback is, the game could be over. So one team that wants to change overtime, that thinks this is unfair and instead make it a level playing field, is the Baltimore Ravens. Now, what is their suggestion? Now, you got to follow along with me here. It is wonky. It's outside the box. It's different. So I'd love to hear your thoughts if you like this or not. Facebook, Worldwide Sports Network, Twitter, WWSRN_radio, at Ryan Hickey Show, also on Twitter as well. The Ravens are proposing is essentially a format of overtime, spot and choose. Spot and choose. So here's what I mean by that. The coin toss would happen as normal. The away team call heads or tails, up, coin slip, boom. Heads or tails, one team obviously wins the coin toss. Instead of determining who gets the ball, you don't play offense or defense. What the Ravens are proposing is the winner of the coin toss gets to choose either we'll play offense or defense. That doesn't change. Or you can determine where the ball is spotted in overtime. So no kickoffs. If you win the coin toss, let's say you can either say we want to play offense, we want to play defense, or you could say, you know what? We won the coin toss. I want to put the ball on the 20-yard line, the opponent's 20-yard line. Then the opponent gets to choose, do I want to play offense from this spot or would I rather play defense from this spot, knowing, again, one stop, you get the ball back, field goal or touchdown wins the game, right? Touchdown in the first drive ends it. Anything else outside of that, the other team gets a shot and then the next score wins. So you have the option if you want to not only pin the other team deep, potentially pin yourself deep. Because if, let's say, you win the coin toss, coin flipped, tails, boom, tails. You say, you know what? I want to put the ball on the opponent 10-yard line. Well, the opponent can say, okay, we'll play defense. You get the ball. And now all of a sudden the team that decided to put the ball at 10-yard line has the ball, but they're on offense, needing to go 90 yards for a touchdown to win the game. So it eliminates the kickoff, where a touchback now you get it to the 25. Maybe you get a big return, you get out to the 30, the 35-yard line. Now you can choose. The Ravens want to propose an opportunity where you can choose either offense or defense. That doesn't change. And if you choose offense, let's say, well, then the other team gets to spot the ball. So you in the coin toss, we're going to go on offense. The other team, in theory, I guess, gets, all right, put the ball on the 1-yard line. Good luck trying to go 99 yards. Or you can choose to spot the ball. Interesting. I do like that little bit of a wrinkle. To be honest, again, I mean, I'm open to change. I'm definitely open to change out, for example, for baseball. I am was now, unfortunately, very anti-DH. National League guy, born and raised, big Mets fan, hated the DH, hated the concept. But in 2020, every team had the DH. I got used to it all season long, and I can't lie, now coming out of 2020, heading to 2020 and beyond, I have become indifferent on the DH. I went from a staunch opposer, hated the DH, hated it, thought the AL should go back to pitchers hitting, to now, okay, you want to put the DH in, fine. If you don't, okay. I have come around. I hate to admit it, to be honest, but I've come around. I'm sure I'd come around to this overtime rule if it is proposed as well. I like the creativity. I do like the creativity. What I wonder, I just wonder if we need it. That's my thing. Like, I have zero issue with the overtime rules. I really don't. Like, for the NFL, they have a lot of other issues they got to tackle. And apparently, another rule proposal that's being changed is to allow for the replay of roughing the passer to be challengeable, be under replay, which the last thing we need for anything is more replay. I don't know about you, I hate replay. It has gotten so frustrating. It's taken so long, and the calls aren't even right every time. Then now it's like, replay has become more of a nuisance than has been a benefit to the game. So do we need overtime changes? Personally, I don't think so. I like overtime. I will say this is intriguing. I do like the strategy. That is my thing. I love strategy in the game. I love seeing what the head coach has to do. I love seeing him put in positions to where they have to manipulate the game with their mind, with their play call, with their schemes. I think it's a lot of fun adding more strategy into the game, and that's what this rule would do for the Ravens. More strategy would be added to the game because guess what? Now, hey, you can go on offense, but guess what? Now you're giving the other team the ability to put the ball on the 1 yard line, on the 10-yard line, on the 5-yard line. And now, sure, you get the ball first, and maybe you have Patrick Mahomes. But one snap over his head, one sack, and the game's over because you have a safety. Or you go 3 and out, the team gets the ball back. Around midfield, need 15 yards for a field goal, and the game's over. Spot and choose. I will give the Ravens a lot of credit. I love the creativity to even the playing field when it comes to overtime, when it comes to try to eliminate the coin toss as a deciding factor, if you will, for some teams believing that is almost too much of an unfair situation where the team that wins the coin toss, easy for me to say. You see, we're running out of steam here towards the end of the show. Excuse me. Win the coin toss. And then most likely if they get the ball, they can end the game. So it's interesting. I'd love to see if what the NFL considers if they want to implement this rule and what kind of support it gets. Now you need 23 other teams to approve this in order for it to be implemented. So the Ravens are the ones that are proposing this. 24 total gets it through. You'd assume they accept their own proposal. 23 other teams need to approve it in order to have this come a rule for 2021 and beyond. Be cool, interesting. Don't feel like personally we need it, but it'll be, I think, a fun, intriguing twist to add some more strategy to the game of football. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Ryan Hickey Show. Brand new studio, but hopefully for the most part, the show stayed the same. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We will be back on Mondays. We always are here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, 9 a.m. Eastern. But again, just because we're not on the air doesn't mean that you should tune off the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. We have a ton of incredibly talented folks working here. They put on great content, written-wise, audio-wise, video-wise. So how you stay up to date with that? Download our app, WWSRN on iOS, Worldwide Sports Network on Android. Like us on Facebook, Worldwide Sports Network. Follow us on Twitter at WWSRN_radio. Like us on YouTube, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. That way, you stay up to date, in tune with everything going on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. We have shows throughout the day, throughout the evening, throughout the weekends. Plenty to keep you occupied all the time right here. So make sure you do that. You like us, you follow us, you download the app. That way you can stay up to date with everything going on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. So enjoy your Thursday. It's a beautiful Thursday here on Long Island. So enjoy it. Spring is getting close. We are getting there. We are getting closer. So enjoy it. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, stay sane. And as always, we'll talk to you Monday right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.